In this video, we're going to explore the lists and spreadsheets and data and statistics capabilities of your TI-nSpire calculator. So go to the home screen and we're going to get a new document. So new, I don't want to save the previous document. And let's add a list and spreadsheet. That is like an Excel document or Google Sheet. So what we're going to do here is we are going to examine some data that looks at a day number and then the number of frogs seen on each of those days. So when we look at the spreadsheet, we'll see this equal row. That's where you would put some formulas. So we don't want to enter anything in that row for this example. We do want to name our headings. We do want to name our columns. So do that in the rows where you see the A, B, C. That's where you're going to put the name. So our first column, that's going to be our day number. And when you name your columns, put a descriptive name. Don't put X or Y. That can cause problems if those variables were defined previously. So I'm going to go ahead and type in day number. And when you make variables, it has to be all one word without spaces. So day number. And then I'm going to hit tab. I'm going to go to the next column. And for the second column, I'm going to do frogs seen. So that's nice and descriptive, so we know what this data is. And hit enter. Now notice we can't see the full word. So just like in other programs, we can hover over the line between the two columns and drag it so that we can see the full word. So that's going to make it a little bit nicer for us to work with. And then in the first column, we're going to put the day number. The day numbers go from 1 to 8. So we're going to go ahead and enter those. So 1, 2, and when I hit enter, it's automatically going down to the next row. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. I'm going to arrow back up and I'm going to enter the number of frogs seen on each one of those days. So on 1, it's 5. 2, it's 9. I'm reading the data from the packet. 3 is going to be 13. 4 is 21. 5 is 26. 6 is 34. And 7, oh, I messed up. 6 is actually 29, so glad I caught that. So let's make this 29. 7 is 34. And 8 is 42. So I'm going to double check that data. So it's 5, 9, 13, 21, 26, 29, 34, and 42. All right, so our spreadsheet set up. The next thing we want to do is we want to visualize this data. So let's make a scatter plot. So to do that, we're going to add a new page. So I'm going to do Control Doc, which adds a page, and I'm going to choose Data and Statistics. And that creates a scatter plot, but it's meaningless right now. The points, we can hover over them and see the data points, but they're not organized based on our X or Y values. So I'm going to click to add a variable for the Y scale. So the Y value is going to be the number of frogs seen, and the X value is going to be the day number. And now we have a nice scatter plot, and this data looks pretty linear. So we can do linear regression to find a line of best fit. Some data may use a different type of model, could be quadratic, exponential, logarithmic. But for today's example, let's do a linear regression. So in order to do that, we can add that right on our data and statistics page. So I'm going to do menu, and then I'm going to do analyze and regression. And from that, I'm going to choose a linear regression, and that's going to find the line that best fits this data. Now, the line is not going to go through all the points, but it's the line that is closest to all of the points. And you'll see that the equation is written right on our graph, and that is the best fit for this data. If you like to trace the regression line, we can do that. We can do menu, analyze, and then we can do graph trace. And now we are on the regression line, and we can scroll up and down using the arrows. Unfortunately, the data and statistics doesn't have as many features as the graphing portion of the calculator does. Another nice thing to do, though, is if we want to figure out how many frogs there would be at, say, 20 days, if we were using this model, that's called extrapolation. What we can do is we can get a new page. So I'm going to do Control Doc, and I'm going to add a calculator page. And now I don't really want to type in that equation, y equals 5.0238095, et cetera, x. But I can paste that equation because the calculator knows that equation. To get the equation, I can hit the var key, and then I can scroll down to the stat reg equation, which is that equation that we had pasted on the previous page. And now if I want to know how many frogs there are on the 20th day, let's say, I can put 20 into the function, and I can see there will be 103.01 frogs, and we'd have to figure out what we think about having a partial frog. And if I want to go back, right, I can see these other pages like we learned at the beginning of the project by clicking on these page numbers. So once again, this stat.reg equation will put in a given x value into this function and then give you the output value.